Good morning. Happy Super Bowl day. Happy Groundhog's Day. Happy Palindrome Day. Who knows what that is? That's when something, right, forward, back is the exact same thing. So in numerology, this is a special day, a day of creation. So I encourage you when you get home to get out a pen and pad, write down that which you choose to experience, and then read it aloud. So I am delighted to be here at the New Thought Spiritual Center of Eastern Long Island, as always, where practical spirituality is taught. The fundamental principle of New Thought is there is one ultimate loving energy and presence in all that exists. Some call this power the universe, God, spirit, source, the creator of all that is, infinite intelligence. Ponder called it the universal life current. I dig that one, right? Divine love, etc. Then there's an ancient fable. It's an Oriental fable that tells of ancient gods trying to decide exactly where to hide the power of the universe so that man wouldn't find it and use it destructively. One god said, let's hide it on top of the highest mountain. But they decided that man would eventually scale the highest mountain and would end up finding this great power. And then another god said, let's hide this power deep at the bottom of the sea. And again, it was decided that one day man would be able to explore the bottom of the sea. And so the third god said, well, why don't we hide the great power of the universe in the middle of the earth? But they realized that man would be able to conquer that region one day as well. So finally, the wisest God of all said, how about if we hide the great power of the universe within man? He'll never think to look of it there. And according to the ancient fable, they did hide the power of the universe within man. And as we learn to look within, we can uncover and express this great power. The philosopher Dr. Ernest Holmes, he wrote about this great power in his book, This Thing Called Life. Who's read This Thing Called Life? How about This Thing Called You? That book rocks. That book, I love that book. And so here's what he said. God is life, not some life, but all life. God is action, not some action, but all action. God is power, not some power, but all power. God is pure spirit filling all space. This pure spirit animates our every act. And so we can conclude from this that we inherently are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so as spiritual beings, we have, just as the Creator does, the power to create. We co-create with God in our thoughts, with the words we speak, as well as our actions. We co-create in our thinking by consistently, persistently, and vividly entertaining a thought or idea. The thought then goes from the surface mind to the deeper mind, the subconscious mind. Then it is through the law of mind that we draw and attract people, circumstances, and events that correspond to these subconscious thought patterns. And so there's a popular adage in New Thought. Say it with me if you know it. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Right. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Say it with me. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So true spiritual power is knowing our oneness with this amazing energy and presence of God. God expresses in us, through us, and as us. It is knowing that we live in an abundant, unlimited universe. It's knowing that within us lies all the love and the wisdom and the power needed to create a joyful, peaceful, prosperous, and productive human life experience. We were born to bring God, this divine energy, into our physical experience in our own perfect way. And we are here so that the divine idea of life might fill itself. And we are here to bring the unformed, infinite potentiality into reality. Our direct inheritance of God, creator of all that is, are divine ideas, and it's our willingness to take these divine ideas and act upon us that puts us in the flow of life. Divine synchronicity is all around us, and it's so cool. You ever how often are you in that flow of light, right? You get that perfect parking spot. You get a check when it's unexpected. I could just go on, but my review of New Thought is done. Okay, you got it? Okay, so now I want to talk to you today about true spiritual power. And I want to do so by examining the differences between surviving, striving, and thriving. And, check where you are, because I think in different areas of our life, some areas we strive or survive or thrive, but other areas we're totally thriving. So just notice the mode of surviving. There's a story about a remote monastery high up on a cliff, several hundred feet up in the air. It is an absolutely beautiful place. It's serene, it's filled with love, and it has a widespread reputation, and people would flock to it to experience its sacred energy. There's just one challenge for anybody who wants to go to the monastery. There are no steps up to the top of the mountain. You have to be hoisted up, pulled up in a basket to the top of this mountain. And so you get in the basket, and then the monks start pulling on the ropes, and with all their strength, pulling to the top of the mountain. Obviously, it's a very steep ride up the mountain, and it's terrifying. Well, one day, a tourist got exceedingly nervous, and about halfway up, and he noticed the rope by which it was suspended. It was old, and it was frayed, and it was actually just hanging on by a thread. And so he asked the monk who was riding with him, how often did they change the rope? And the monk thought for a moment and said, matter-of-factly, whenever it breaks. So when you're in survival mode, you feel as if you're hanging on by a threadbare rope and that rope's about to break any moment. And it's a pretty scary place to be. Really intense. Anybody ever been there? Oh, all of us. Oh, good. I'm speaking to everyone today. Good. So when you're in this mode, you're like, why me? Or if you start to get turned on to new thought and you learn that your thinking creates, then you get really guilty and you go, how did I create this? How did I attract this? It's in this state of consciousness that things seem to be happening to you. You feel powerless. You feel like you're a victim of your circumstances. And all you can see is how life is messed up or how life has failed you. And we might think, oh, God is testing me, or God has abandoned me, or even worse, God is punishing me. And this stage of living, it's actually a deep state of sleep, because we are asleep to our divinity. We are asleep to our true spiritual power, asleep to the power of spirit that gives us the ability to choose and create our futures. Now, we might there in this mode have like an inkling that there's something better and fuller and grander to be experienced, but we don't have a handle on it because we're too busy keeping our heads above the water, trying to survive and complaining about how stinky life is. The mode of striving, this delightful cup of tea. How heavy do you think this delightful cup of tea is? Not that heavy at all, right? The reality, it doesn't really matter what the weight is. It depends on how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, it's okay. If I hold it for an hour, my arm is going to ache. If I hold it for a day, I'm going to have to go see the local physical therapist to get my muscles back in shape. It's the exact same weight, but the point is the longer that I hold it, the heavier that it becomes. This is equivalent to how the mode of striving feels. It's like through sheer force, willpower, controlling, manipulating, figuring out, holding on, and I can make it work. I can make it work. Doing more of what doesn't work, and getting better at doesn't work, and trying harder at what doesn't work. Because we're striving and pushing with just our human self, and we get very tired when we're striving, very tired. Now think about thriving. Where in your life are you thriving? When we thrive, we realize that we are never, ever alone. We are conscious of true spiritual power. We realize that this amazing energy, presence, and power seeks to express in me, through me, and as me. We know we're not alone, and we know that this power that created the universe is ever available. It is right here and right now, and it's supporting us so that we may experience our greatest good. And we can release control because we have this sense of a personal relationship with something much more powerful than we are. And we no longer feel alone. We may be physically alone, but we know that we are always with a divine support system. We always have a divine support system. However, that power shows up in our life, and there's many ways, and boy, I could give a whole nother sermon about that, but let's stay on topic, Janine. Okay. John Randolph Price wrote a book. He wrote a lot of books. Are you familiar with John Randolph Price? He wrote a book called The Jesus Code, and in it, I think he beautifully describes what it's like to thrive. And he wrote, God expresses itself as me, and I eternally live in God, with God, and as the Spirit of God. The fullness of the Godhead dwells in me and expresses through me as every good and perfect thing. I am a channel for positive change in the world. I recognize my value as an individualized being living on earth at this time. As the very worthiness of God, I am part of the grand plan of continuing creation, and my contribution to this world is vitally important in the divine scheme of things. Poised, powerful, peaceful, I do my part with love and joy. How cool is that? Isn't that great? That's so cool. So how do we get to this place of thriving and living with true spiritual power? Well, as students of New Thought, we know we must daily pray and meditate and keep our thinking in the positive. We do affirmations, and we cultivate having an attitude of gratitude. What I want to focus on in this moment is the power of the spoken word. Because I think so much in New Thought, we talk so much about our thoughts. But I'm not sure we're paying a lot of attention to this idea of the power of the spoken word, which is intrinsically important. Which, by the way, is the theme, power is the theme here at the New Thought Center, and thank you for having me as the speaker, first speaker of the month. And so, according to the teachings of Charles Fillmore in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, which, by the way, you can get it online. It's for free at truthunity.net. You can look it up and you can read the whole book. It's pretty deep. But he said that power is one of our 12 attributes, and it is the vital energy that has its seat in the hollow of the throat at the root of the tongue. And that power is released by consciously speaking positive, powerful words of truth. Now, you may be familiar with Catherine Ponder. Who's familiar with Ponder? Oh, Ponder. Gosh, I had so many books I researched for this talk. You're not going to believe it. Catherine Ponder. And she was a Unity teacher, minister, prolific author. And she wrote a book, Healing Secret of the Ages. And she said, the universal life current is subject and obedient to the word of man. And she gives the example from the New Testament where Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. So Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days, and no doubt his body was disintegrating. And Jesus, knowing the power of the spoken the word to release atomic energy in every cell of Lazarus' body, deliberately released it through the spoken word. So Jesus affirmed in a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. And you know, I've thought about it. Thank God he said, Lazarus, come forth, for everybody in that whole graveyard would have come forth, right? I know, that's how my mind works. But right? So you see, Lazarus obeyed and came forth, and he was completely whole when he did, because your word is your power. Ponder taught that our words are constantly doing one of two things, building up or tearing down, healing or destroying. What are your words doing every day and where you go? What are you doing? What comes out of your mouth? Are you complaining or are you looking for the good and praising it? She said that every word you speak goes forth from your mouth charged with atomic energies. Charged with atomic energies. And she was so adamant about speaking in the positive that she wrote about it in several of her books. The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, Chapter 6. Pray and Grow Rich, Chapter 6. Open Your Mind to Healing. I think it's Chapter 2, I'm not sure. The Prosperity Secret of the Ages. The Dynamic Laws of Healing. Open Your Mind to Prosperity. These are all her books where she spoke about the power of the spoken word. We must constantly speak words of life, health, vitality, praise, thanksgiving, and love. It is destructive words that cause endless ills in our life. How often do we complain about the difficulties in life? We say things like, I'm sick, I'm broke, cancel, clear, delete. I'm lonely because I don't have any friends. We say, I'm miserable at my job, or I'm going crazy because I'm stressed out. Cancel, cancel. We must be very careful the words we speak when we use the words I am. I am is the name of God within you. I am is your God nature. When you're saying I am, you're talking about what in the Old Testament in Exodus 3:14 in the King James Bible, God said unto Moses, I said verbal, isn't that funny? God said unto Moses, I am that I am. I remember when I first took ministerial training, that one for a year I meditated on. I am that I am. So often when we say I am, what we really mean is that we're feeling something. But the thing is, when you're saying I am, you're saying it's my essence to be. It's the absolute truth about me. It's my nature to be. It's God's will to me. You're saying, God, give me more of that. Give me more of that. That's why when I was saying I am, you heard me muttering, cancel, clear, delete. Because I don't want to say those words. They're very powerful. And when you know that your words have power, you have even more power than ever before. Because you know that God is expressing through you. So for example, if we say, I'm tired. No, you feel tired because your divine I am nature within you can never be tired. It can never be beat up, and it can never be stressed out. That's another one. I'm so stressed out. No, you're not stressed out. You might feel tired. You might feel stressed, but you am not tired and you am not stressed. It just can't be the truth about you. Ponder advised that we use the power of the spoken word to bless others. She was really into this. She said to bless, to bring forth the good in a situation, condition, or personality, whether or not there seems to be good to bring forth or not. And so to bless is to judge not according to appearances, as Jesus taught, but to judge according to right judgment, that of beholding the good and thereby bringing it forth in a condition or person. And so when we're looking at the good or talking about it, we're sending forth blessing. And Ponder, she'd be walking around, I bless my pocketbook, I bless you, and I bless you, and I bless the traffic, and I bless she would just bless everything. She would have that consciousness. She blessed her body and her friends and anything she could think of. The key, though, is that she did it aloud. That's the lesson for today. Aloud, speaking your words, your truth aloud. And so in our everyday conversations, it's so important to watch the words we speak. We have to eliminate complaining, eliminate condemning, and eliminate criticizing, because your word is your power. And that's how many of us lose a lot of friends, because you just can't be. I know there's a new woman I met recently, and I'm saying, she just her choices, she's just so inflexible. Then I realize she's always saying things like, well, I don't have any friends, and I don't get along with people, and in my job, they don't really respect me. And I'm thinking, well, no wonder it doesn't feel right to be in her presence, because there's an atomic energy that goes along with your words. There's a vibration. We live in a universe of energy, and that energetic vibration goes out, and literally, we can feel it. We can feel it. And I want to tell you a story. It's a true story. Many years ago, I had a friend named Diane, and this is when I first began practical spirituality. I don't know, it was back in the 90s, sorry. And so badminton, always played badminton, gold medal badminton player, always into badminton. And anybody remember the expression, give me a break? Remember how that was a really popular expression? It meant like cut me some slack, it meant leave me alone, it meant like aloha, it meant a lot of things. And so I was having a badminton party in my backyard, and Diane was playing. She runs to hit the birdie, she falls, and she hurts her ankle. Her ankle was getting really fat. So I took her to the hospital, they admitted her, they took x-rays, and guess what? She had a broken bone. And so she's lying on the gurney, and it suddenly dawns on me, and I go up to her and I say, Diane, what's your favorite expression? Well, she glares at me and she goes, give me up! And she stops and gasps, because she realized that she would always say, give me a break, and she got exactly what she was asking for. It's the truth. It's the truth. And wasn't it in 2010 that BP had an oil spill that affected the Gulf of Mexico? Do you remember what their motto was? BP, bringing oil to American shores. Just saying. Just saying. Right? Can you imagine all the people in their company going, bringing oil to American shores, right? Power of the spoken word. So then, student of truth, it behooves us to speak only of positive things. We can take the words of the Apostle Paul and take his idea and put it into practical application by only speaking about whatsoever things are lovely, true, honorable, whatsoever things are just, pure, and lovely, and of good report. If there be any virtue in every praise, he said to think on these things, and I'm saying to speak on these things. So I encourage you to work affirmations daily. I gave you a handout sheet today. I love to give you something you can work at. This is from Ernest Holmes. It's a prayer treatment. And I also have affirmation cards for you if you like. See me afterwards. And so what I'd like to do is just read a bit of this together. Because the power of spoken word, when we collectively, then it's really got this huge power. So are you ready? Let's read, let's just read the first two paragraphs. I indented them to make them easier to read. And I encourage you to raise your right hand like you're taking an oath. Okay, together. I place my affairs in the hands of goodness, love, and wisdom. I place them there with supreme confidence. I have a childlike faith and trust in good. I know there is nothing between me and that which is best. I am filled with enthusiastic hope. I look forward into entering the fullness of life. I am conscious that good is expressing through my thought. My mind is open to the influx of truth. I am guided, I am informed, I am guarded. I am led into pathways of peace and goodness. Very nice. Woo! Oh, very good. This is from the book, This Thing Called You. I encourage you to say this aloud at least twice a day to empower yourself. And you can also say, I speak this word for myself and everyone in my community at the New Thought Spiritual Center of Eastern Long Island. I want to remind you, students of truth, that the world is undergoing a rapid and radical spiritual transformation. We are in this age by divine appointment. More and more people are waking up to their divinity. Turn off the TV, turn off what's called the fake news, turn off all that negativity, and realize that we are witnessing the fulfillment, the manifestation of the scriptures, that humankind is becoming one with the wisdom of their own being. So many people are waking up. They may not call it New Thought like we do. They may be reading Wayne Dyer or listening to Oprah or whomever or whatever. It doesn't matter. Or the Law of Attraction or The Secret. That was so popular for so long. But the truth is that the movement of spirit within us is urging us and nudging us onward and upward towards a greater and greater awakening consciousness of who we are. We're becoming of age in our soul development. We're waking up and becoming one human family, and we're at a spiritual crossroads. And we're the ones who are carrying the vision to bringing forth a world of peace and divine love through our thoughts and our actions and through the power of the spoken word. It's up to us to nourish and support and amplify the amazing power of God within through the power of spoken word. Begin to be more conscious. Begin to be more aware of what you are seeking, and be the light of the world that you were intended to be. And so begins the lesson. Thank you. Thank you.